My boss told me I needed to live for work. Then he stole my idea and passed it off as his own, getting a promotion. He thought I would just swallow it and accept it. He didn't know I knew how to wait. I worked at Horizon Technologies, a mid-sized software development company in Boston. The glass and steel office building overlooked the Charles River, a daily reminder of how far I'd come from my small-town roots in Ohio. This wasn't my dream job, but I poured everything into my work, hoping to climb the corporate ladder. I still remember my first day. Andrew Harper, my boss, gave me the grand tour with his perfect white smile and designer suit. "Michael, this is where innovation happens," he said, gesturing around the open office. "If you want to succeed here, you need to live for the work." I nodded eagerly. Andrew had a reputation as a rising star in the company, executive VP of software development at just 38. Harvard Business School graduate. Featured in 30 Under 30 a few years back. Everyone wanted to be in his good graces. For the first year, I lived by his words. I skipped family gatherings, canceled dates, and worked weekends. My apartment became little more than a place to sleep between coding sessions. While my colleagues left at 5 p.m., I stayed until midnight, fueled by energy drinks and ambition. One Wednesday in March, after a particularly grueling 16-hour coding marathon, something clicked. I discovered a new algorithm that could drastically reduce server load while increasing processing speed by 47%. The company was spending millions on server infrastructure, and my solution could save them a fortune. I spent the next 3 days refining it, testing edge cases, and documenting everything meticulously. On Monday morning, I knocked on Andrew's door, heart pounding. "Come in," he called. Andrew sat behind his glass desk, blue light from his monitor reflecting off his glasses. He glanced up briefly, then back at his screen. "What is it, Michael?" "I've developed something I think you'll want to see," I said, laying my tablet on his desk. "A new algorithm that could revolutionize our infrastructure costs." That got his attention. He set down his coffee and leaned forward. For the next 30 minutes, I explained my innovation, walking him through flowcharts and performance metrics. With each slide, his eyes grew wider. "This could save us, what? 5 million annually?" he asked, scrolling through my projections. 7 million, conservatively, I replied. "And improve performance across all platforms." Andrew stood up and walked to the window, hands clasped behind his back. Then he turned to me with a smile that seemed genuine at the time. "Michael, this is brilliant work." He clapped me on the shoulder. "Absolutely brilliant. The executive board needs to see this. Let's get you ready for a presentation next week." My heart soared. This was it, my breakthrough moment. "I'll help you polish the presentation," Andrew continued. "We need this to be perfect. Clear your schedule this week. Nothing else matters." I walked out of his office floating. That night, I finally called my parents with good news. Mom cried when I told her this might lead to a promotion or even a raise substantial enough to help with Dad's medical bills. For the next 5 days, I lived in the office. I built visually stunning slides, practiced my delivery in empty conference rooms, and fine-tuned every aspect of the presentation with Andrew's guidance. "Remember, keep the technical jargon to a minimum," he advised. "The board doesn't need to understand how it works, just what it does for the bottom line." The morning of the presentation, I dressed in my best suit, the one I'd splurged on for interviews but rarely wore. I arrived at the office at 7 a.m., 2 hours early, to make sure everything was perfect. At 8:45, I headed to the executive conference room on the top floor. The security guard at the elevator stopped me. "Sorry, sir. I need to see your access badge for the executive level." I showed him my regular badge. "I'm presenting at the 9 a.m. meeting." He checked his tablet and shook his head. "Your name's not on the list. I can't let you up without authorization." Confused, I called Andrew. No answer. I texted him. Nothing. At 8:55, I received an email from his assistant. The meeting will be streamed in conference room B. Mr. Harper suggests you watch from there. My stomach dropped. Something wasn't right. I rushed to conference room B, where a few junior developers were already watching the live feed from the executive floor. On the screen, executives in suits filed into the boardroom, taking their seats around a massive oak table. At exactly 9 a.m., Andrew walked in, carrying my presentation tablet. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, I'm excited to share a breakthrough that will transform our infrastructure costs. Slide by slide, he presented my work. My exact slides. My exact words. But with one key difference, he presented it all as his own creation. This algorithm represents months of my research, he said confidently. I've been working nights and weekends to perfect it. My colleagues in conference room B glanced at me uncomfortably. They knew I'd been working late for months. They'd seen the empty energy drink cans piling up in my trash bin. A few gave me sympathetic looks, but most averted their eyes. I sat frozen, watching my career-making moments stolen in real time. How long did this take you to develop, Andrew? Asked the CEO, clearly impressed. About 6 months of focused work, Andrew replied smoothly. It was a long process, but I persevered because I knew the payoff would be substantial. 6 months. He hadn't even known about it a week ago. The presentation concluded with a standing ovation. The CFO announced immediate implementation of Harper's algorithm, with Andrew leading the project. I stumbled back to my desk in a daze. By afternoon, the company-wide newsletter announced Andrew's promotion to Senior VP with a substantial bonus for his groundbreaking innovation. At 5 p.m., I knocked on his office door, hands trembling with anger. Come in, he called cheerfully. Andrew lounged in his chair, tie loosened, a glass of whiskey in hand. The afternoon sunlight caught the gold of his watch, likely purchased with the bonus he'd just received for my work. Michael. Just the man I wanted to see. Have a drink with me? He gestured to the whiskey bottle on his credenza. You stole my algorithm, I said, my voice barely controlled. That was my work. He took a slow sip, then set down his glass. The smile never left his face. Did I? Do you have any proof of that? Everyone knows I've been working late for months. The entire development team. Working on what, exactly? He interrupted. Did you tell anyone specifically what you were developing? Did you document your process anywhere besides the files you shared with me? Did you register your idea with the patent office? My silence answered his questions. He leaned forward, all pretense of friendliness gone. Let me explain how this works, Michael. Ideas are worthless. Execution is everything. And in this case, execution means knowing how to present to executives and having the relationships to get things implemented. He stood and walked around the desk, placing a hand on my shoulder. Look, it's just business, pal. You're a programmer. You'll write something else. I shrugged off his hand and turned to leave. One more thing, he called after me. I've assigned you to the legacy systems team starting Monday. We need your talents on some older projects. Legacy systems. The graveyard of careers at Horizon Technologies. Where programmers went to maintain outdated software until they quit or retired. You can't do that, I said. I'm Senior VP now. I can do whatever I want. I walked out of his office without another word, but I'd made my decision. If this was just business, I would show him exactly what that meant. I wasn't going to quit. I wasn't going to file a complaint that would go nowhere without proof. I was going to destroy Andrew Harper methodically and completely. The next morning, I arrived at work earlier than usual and began my research. Andrew wasn't just my boss, he was now my target. For the next month, I maintained a facade of defeated compliance. I joined the legacy systems team without complaint. I nodded respectfully when Andrew passed me in the hallway. I even congratulated him on his promotion when others were watching. But every minute outside of work, I investigated. I learned his routines, his habits, his weaknesses. First, I discovered that Andrew was technologically inept. Despite leading software development, he couldn't code beyond basic HTML. He relied entirely on subordinates for technical work, taking credit for their efforts, not just mine. Second, I found that Andrew maintained a separate laptop that he never connected to the company network. He kept it locked in his desk drawer when he wasn't using it. Curious. Third, and most importantly, I learned that Andrew used the company's development servers after hours. Access logs showed him logging in from 2 to 4 a.m. several times a week. What was he working on in the middle of the night? I needed more information. Using my knowledge of the building's security protocols, I installed a keylogger on Andrew's workstation during a fire drill. Ethically questionable? Yes. But this wasn't about ethics anymore. The keylogger revealed Andrew's personal password, Genius Andrew 1. Narcissistic and insecure. Perfect. 2 weeks later, I had my opportunity. Andrew left for a 3-day technology conference in San Francisco. With him gone, I accessed his locked drawer using a technique I learned from a lockpicking forum. Inside was the mysterious laptop. I booted it up and used his predictable password pattern to gain access. What I found exceeded my wildest expectations. Andrew was developing a custom inventory management system for Supply Chain Solutions, Horizon's largest competitor. He was using our company's resources, server time, and even components of proprietary code to build software for our rival. I documented everything, taking screenshots and copying files to a secure external drive. But I didn't stop there. I returned to my original algorithm, the one he'd stolen. I modified the implementation he'd pushed to production, embedding a hidden signature in the code. To anyone reviewing it casually, nothing would seem amiss. But the signature contained time-stamped proof of my authorship, including comments only visible when specific debugging flags were enabled. Next, I created a ghost account on the development server with administrative privileges. From this account, I could monitor and control aspects of the system without leaving traces. My plan had 3 phases. Phase 1, discredit Andrew professionally. Phase 2, expose his betrayal of the company. Phase 3, reclaim my algorithm while destroying his reputation. I began Phase 1 by introducing subtle flaws in his implementation of my algorithm. Nothing catastrophic, just enough to raise questions about his understanding of the system he supposedly created. During status meetings, I asked innocent-sounding questions that highlighted these flaws. Other developers began noticing inconsistencies in Harper's algorithm. It's strange, one senior developer commented, that these edge cases weren't accounted for in the initial design. Andrew fumbled through explanations, revealing his lack of understanding. Seeds of doubt were planted. For Phase 2, I waited for the perfect moment. It came 6 weeks later when Andrew presented quarterly results to the board, taking full credit for the cost savings my algorithm had generated. That night, I uploaded the complete source code of my algorithm to a public GitHub repository under my name, with full documentation of my development process, including time-stamped commits that predated Andrew's discovery. Simultaneously, I sent an anonymous tip to Horizon's chief security officer about unauthorized server access and potential intellectual property theft. I included logs showing Andrew's late-night activities and evidence of his work for Supply Chain Solutions. By morning, the technology blogs had picked up the story of Harper's algorithm appearing on GitHub. Questions arose about Horizon's proprietary technology being open-sourced without authorization. Andrew was called into an emergency meeting with the executive team. I watched through the conference room windows as his face grew increasingly pale. When he emerged 2 hours later, security personnel escorted him to his office to collect his personal belongings. But I wasn't finished. As Andrew packed his things under supervision, I activated Phase 3. The debugging flags in the production system were triggered, revealing my hidden signature in the algorithm. At the same time, the ghost account sent documentation to every executive, showing definitively that I was the original creator. Andrew was escorted from the building, his face twisted with rage and confusion. He had no idea who had orchestrated his downfall. 3 days later, the CEO called me to her office. "Michael," she said, "we owe you an apology and much more. The board has reviewed the evidence and recognizes that you are the true creator of the algorithm saving us millions." I nodded, maintaining a somber expression despite my internal elation. Andrew Harper has been terminated for intellectual property theft, corporate espionage, and violation of his non-compete agreement. Legal proceedings are being initiated. She slid a document across her desk. "We'd like to offer you his position, along with appropriate compensation and recognition." I glanced at the salary figure and struggled to keep my composure. It was triple my current pay. Additionally, she continued, "We'll be filing for a patent on your algorithm, with you listed as the sole inventor." I accepted the offer with appropriate gratitude and humility. Within a week, I moved into Andrew's former office. I hung a single framed item on the wall, a printout of the first page of my algorithm with my name at the top. 6 months later, I attended a technology conference in Chicago. As I entered the hotel bar after the day's sessions, I spotted a familiar figure hunched over a drink. Andrew Harper looked nothing like the confident executive I'd known. His designer suit had been replaced by off-the-rack business casual. The gold watch was gone. His once perfect hair had thinned, with gray showing at the temples. He didn't notice me as I took the seat beside him. "Hello, Andrew," I said quietly. He turned, recognition slowly dawning in his bloodshot eyes. "Michael?" "In the flesh." I ordered a whiskey, the expensive kind he used to drink. "What do you want?" His voice had lost its authoritative edge. "Just curious how life's treating you." He gave a bitter laugh. "I'm selling printer supplies over the phone. Can't get a tech job because I've been blacklisted." "Satisfied?" I sipped my drink calmly. "You told me it was just business, remember?" His eyes widened as understanding dawned. "It was you." "What was me?" "Everything. The code exposure. The security tip. You destroyed me." I finished my drink and placed the glass on the bar. "No, Andrew. I just showed everyone who you really are." As I stood to leave, he grabbed my arm. "Do you know what it's like to lose everything you've worked for?" I removed his hand gently. "Actually, I do. You taught me that lesson. The difference is, I learned from it." I paid for both our drinks and walked away, leaving him staring after me in the dimly lit bar. On the flight home, I reflected on my journey. I had achieved everything I wanted: recognition, position, compensation. Andrew had lost everything. But strangely, I felt no satisfaction. Just a hollow emptiness where my passion for coding used to be. When I returned to my corner office with its river view, I opened my laptop and began writing a letter of resignation. I didn't need Horizon Technologies anymore. I had enough saved to start my own company, one built on actual innovation rather than stolen ideas. As I typed the final lines, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number: "This isn't over." I smiled at the screen. Andrew still didn't understand. It was already over the moment he taught me how the game is really played.